Also developing tonight as America's best ally in the Middle East is dealing with what may be the worst terror attack we have seen in weeks. New remarks by our Secretary of State, John Kerry, are causing controversy. Over the weekend, a Palestinian man went on a stabbing and shooting spree at an Israeli bus station at the height of the weekend rush hour, killing one soldier and wounding at least 10 civilians. Israeli officials have recently encouraged average citizens to protect themselves any way they can. But tonight, Secretary Kerry is suggesting Israelis refrain from what he calls self-help.
We want to see calm restored, and we want to see the violence stop. And I think everybody in Israel and in the region would like to see both of those things happen. We continue to urge everybody to exercise restraint and to refrain from any kind of self-help in terms of the violence.
Marc Thiessen is a Fox News contributor and former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush. And Mark Hanna is a partner at the Truman National Security Project and adjunct professor of media studies at the New School. So after that devastating attack on the Israelis, they did fight back, and the murderer, the terrorist, was killed. But then another man was also killed, who the understanding is they thought he too was a terrorist, but he was in fact an innocent bystander. And that has led to pushback on the Israelis as well. But Marc Thiessen, I ask you, was Secretary Kerry somehow out of line in his language?
Of course he was. I mean, restrain self-help, as in don't take steps necessary to protect yourself against knife-wielding terrorists. I mean, that's just mindless. And he doesn't even acknowledge them to be terrorists. He said in the very next sentence, he called them random acts of violence, the exact same words that President Obama used to describe the attack on a kosher deli in Paris. These are not random acts of violence. They are premeditated acts of anti-Semitic terror, and they are being incited by Palestinian leaders. The president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, said, quote, "We welcome every drop of blood spilled in Jerusalem." That's the moderate leadership. Hamas is putting out videos saying, giving instructions on how to stab a Jew. If they want to restrain something, tell the Palestinians to restrain their incitement of terror.
How about it, Mark Hanna?
And that's exactly what John Kerry has done. He has told the Palestinians to restrain these acts. But Megan, what you said before, basically about this bystander that was innocently killed, he was accidentally killed. He was killed by an Israeli security forces, and then there was a mob of angry Israeli Jews that basically were kicking him in the face and throwing benches on him. There's tension.
But let me ask you about that, Mark, because do you concede, it sounds like from the circumstances, the Israelis believed, wrongly, however, they believed that this guy was part of the attack. I mean, it's not like they were just sitting there and decided to kill a guy.
Right.
This was, a terrorist attack was underway.
It speaks to the amount of tensions that are flaring up in the region, and any kind of bravado or any kind of bluster isn't going to solve that. There's no question that Israelis have the right, not just the right, but the responsibility to defend themselves. Nobody's telling the Israelis not to defend themselves. What they're saying is that a steady hand is required. We can't get into the cycle of recrimination and resentment and retaliation, which has happened for the past 60 years. So to say that this is somehow, a problem of the Obama administration, this has been going on well before Barack Obama has been alive. Mark knows that. He's a smart guy.
Well,
his foreign policy analysis has to expand beyond the typical blame Obama.
You're doing the same moral equivalence that the Obama administration is. I don't see any Israeli leaders putting out instructional videos on how to stab a Palestinian or celebrating every drop of Palestinian blood spilled in Jerusalem. President Abbas actually gave a speech a few days ago in which
you're the one with the moral equivalence.
Let Hannah finish his point.
No, I'm not. They're inciting terrorism.
I'm sorry?
They're inciting terrorism. The president of the Palestinian Authority gave a speech a few days ago where he said, we pledge that we will not allow filthy Jewish feet into the holy sites in Jerusalem.
Yes,
they are inciting this.
Tough to reason with
we're not condemning
like that. Go ahead, Mark Hanna.
No, there's the head of the Palestinian Authority has a tremendous record of saying incendiary, hateful rhetoric, using this kind of terminology. But do we hold Netanyahu and the Israelis to a higher standard? You bet we do. They're our friend. They're our ally. They're a liberal democracy in that part of the world with an advanced economy, and we have a deep cultural bond that we share, a cultural heritage with them. So, of course, as in our personal lives, we hold our friends, our allies to a higher standard. So, you know, for those people out there pointing and comparing these two, they're the ones making a false equivalence.
All right.
They're the ones making the moral equivalence, not the Obama administration.
I know that Thiessen would desperately like to respond, but I have to go because we have other guests coming up. It's great to see you both.